reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. All is meaningless, says the teacher, meaningless, meaningless. For here was a man who toiled in all wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and he must leave all to someone who has not worked for it. This is meaningless and a great misfortune. For what profit is there for a man in all his work and heart searching under the sun? All his days bring sorrow, his work grief. He hasn't, moreover, peaceful rest at night. That too is meaningless. Responsorial Psalm. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.
If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.
You turn humanity back into dust, saying, return, you children of Adam. 1,000 years in your eyes are merely a day gone by, before a watch passes in the night.
If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.
You wash them away. They sleep, and in the morning they sprout again like an herb. In the morning it blooms only to pass away. In the evening it is wilted and withered.
If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.
Teach us to count our days aright, that we may gain wisdom of heart. Relent, O Lord, how long? Have pity on your servants.
If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.
Fill us at daybreak with your mercy, that all our days we may sing for joy.
If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.
May the favor of the Lord our God be ours. Prosper the work of our hands. Prosper the work of our hands.
If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts.
A reading from the letter of Paul to the Colossians. So then, if you are risen with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on the things that are above, not on earthly things. For you have died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, reveals himself, you also will be revealed with him in glory. Therefore, put to death what is earthly in your life, that is, immorality, impurity, inordinate passions, wicked desires, and greed, which is a way of worshiping idols. Do not lie to one another. You have been stripped of the old self and its way of thinking, to put on the new, which is being renewed, and is to reach perfect knowledge and the likeness of its Creator. There is no room for distinction between Greek or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, foreigner, slave or free, but Christ is all and in all. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Someone in the crowd spoke to Jesus, "Master, tell my brother to share with me the family inheritance." He replied, "My friend, who has appointed me as your judge or your attorney?" Then Jesus said to the people, "Be on your guard and avoid every kind of greed, for even though you have many possessions, it is not that which gives you life." And Jesus continued, "There was a rich man, and his land had produced a good harvest. He thought, 'What shall I do, for I am short of room to store my harvest? All right, I know what I shall do. I will pull down my barns, and I will build bigger ones to store all this grain, which is my wealth. Then I will say to myself, my friend, you have a lot of good things put by for many years. Rest, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your life will be taken from you. Tell me, who shall get all you have put aside?' This is the lot of the one who stores up riches for himself and is not wealthy in the eyes of God."
Reflection for the 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Through Scripture, the Spirit has been clear and unambiguous in relation to earthly possessions, power and prestige, and the fate that always awaits it. Whether earned from scratch through sheer hard work or inherited from family fortunes, such treasures are not that which gives you life. They are meaningless, bringing us no real happiness and peace, not only because they are destined to be left to someone who has not worked for it, but because they are merely centered on the satiation of the self. Self-centeredness surely leads to a death, soon to be forgotten. On the other hand, meaningful riches are treasures centered on both being graciously received and graciously given away, on an uncompromising responsibility of the self towards the other in need, hence on the spiritual intention to seek the things that are above, not on earthly things. They are centered on the exemplar of the Christ, who is revealed in us through the selflessness which he inspires, a life orientation willfully rejecting immorality, impurity, inordinate passions, wicked desires, and greed, but which first entails the difficult conversion from the old self to the new self. Such riches are what makes attachment to earthly treasures meaningless, and detachment from them through evangelical simple living meaningful. Selflessness surely leads to a passing that will never be forgotten in the eyes of God. However, in embracing evangelical simple living, which is meant to detach us from the allurement of earthly treasures so that we can freely love God and others, we must not be similarly detached from the reality of real poverty. Evangelical simple living, though self-liberating, must become the direct means for us to free others from the oppression of real poverty. It must always be recalled that real poverty is the consequence primarily of our human instinct towards a self-contained, self-sustained self-centeredness, and of the social structures we create and maintain to support it. In other words, real poverty is caused precisely by the desire of one to hoard meaningless earthly advantages at the expense and to the disadvantage of another. It must also be recalled that the pursuit of one's interest for self-preservation, though morally acceptable, can become morally questionable when one's pursuit already becomes a hindrance to another's right to their own growth and development. Therefore, it is imperative for the sake of social harmony to strive for a social equality in which those who have more than what they need must be exhorted to give from that excess to those who have less, so that all will have what they need. Evangelical simple living or meaningful poverty consists of an active decreasing of what one needs in order to increase how much can be given for others. It is truly a subtle tool which anyone can enact to combat real poverty, and it may perhaps be the most powerful means for the true followers of the Christ to help achieve the kingdom of God.